Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking to you guys about marriage. In our society, we all glamorize the idea of getting married, and many of us, especially the ladies out there, we think about what dress we want to wear and what kind of venue we want to have and what ring we want. But what we don't really consider are the types of conversations we need to be having with our partner. So in today's video, I am going to be sharing 5 questions to answer before marriage. The first question to answer is, where do we want to live? Now, for some of you guys, that might be a very easy question to answer. Maybe you don't really care where you live, right? Maybe you work virtually or you work, from home, so you don't really need to think about this one too hard. Other people might have a very strong attachment to a certain city or a certain state. I know personally that I always kind of flirt with the idea of moving super far away, but then I think about it and I'm like, oh my god, I am such a mama's girl. I am best friends with my sister, so I would probably need to be pretty close to them. So within this question, you need to think about how far are your families going to be located and how often will you see them. These are important questions because sometimes people will move away to a different state, and after a few months or several years they realize that they really can't live in a place that is isolated from their friends and their family and their social circle. So this is definitely a conversation to have so that when you guys take the big step, you guys are on the same page about where you want to live and how often you're going to visit and see your families. Number 2 is, what type of lifestyle are we going to have? So this question is all about kind of our work-life balance. At what age do we plan to retire? How often are we going to take vacation? How are we going to budget for vacations? You also want to talk about expectations in terms of work. Are we both going to be working? Now this question is super important because there might be someone who is super ambitious and who wants to work until they basically pass, where someone else might want to retire early. And obviously if someone wants to retire early, then they also want their partner there next to them so they're able to live life and travel and do things that aren't necessarily an option if someone is working a typical 9 to 5. So lifestyle is a very important topic to be talked about among partners because it takes into account all of the things that make up our day-to-day life, right? You can also mention exercise in this category because a lot of times when people get together and a few years pass, sometimes they end up gaining weight or they kind of end up letting themselves go in terms of taking care of their health, taking care of their fitness. So that is also something that should be talked about under the category of lifestyle. Number 3 is one that we kind of all know we should talk about, but not a lot of us do, and that has to do with the topic of children. So this question is, do you want children? If you want children, then there are a bunch of follow-up questions to have. For instance, how are we going to raise our children? What types of morals and values do we plan to instill in them? What religion are our children going to follow? The other question is, when do we plan on having children? Is it right after we get married? Is it 5 years later? Is it when we're in our late 20s? Is it when we're in our 30s? So this question is definitely something that needs to be talked about. I know I personally have been on dates with people, and when I mentioned I don't want kids, that was like a deal breaker, and obviously I did not take it to heart, because if that is something that is super important to someone else, I am not going to keep them from living out their dreams. So you need to realize that a lot of these topics are kind of sensitive to talk about because for some people it might be super important to them to have kids. So if you are not on the same page as them, why are you wasting time with someone that you really can't build a future with, that you really can't build your dream life with? So it is definitely important to ask someone about children, when they want to have children, and how the children are going to be raised. On the topic of children, you guys should also discuss how many children you plan on having, and if you plan on having children that are your own, or if you plan on adopting, or, you know, taking a child in from foster care. All of these questions should be addressed in this category. Number 4 is the question that none of us want to ask, but that we really should, and that deals with how will finances be arranged. So you need to talk about finances. I know this seems like such a weird topic to talk about, especially with someone that, you know, you're just dating, but you need to have this conversation because that is going to, you know, clear the air for you guys, so you guys both know that this person's going to work. This is how we're going to save. These are the retirement accounts that we're going to have. Are we going to have joint accounts? Are we going to be signing prenups? All of these questions need to be answered before you marry someone. Last but not least, the last question, number 5, is what are your expectations of me? Now, this question can take so many different forms because you could have expectations in terms of how you want someone to treat you emotionally. You can have expectations when it comes to intimacy. You can have expectations when it comes to how you guys are going to deal with arguments and tough times. So really be clear with your partner about what it is that you expect from them and vice versa, because this really does prevent confusion down the line, and it does really prevent unhappiness and divorces as well, because a lot of divorces are tied to one of these 5 areas, whether it's having kids, whether it's finances, whether it's expectations, whether it's where you guys live or your lifestyle. So if you do have these conversations, this is not only going to deepen your bond with your partner, but it's going to be a great indicator of whether or not you guys are compatible when it comes to creating a lifelong partnership when you get married. So I really hope that this video was helpful. Make sure to subscribe before you head out, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye!